All right, here we are, still stepping. I don't even know what time it is. What time is it, Flavel? It's 10 o'clock. We've been doing this for 2 hours. I've got some updates. Chris Comeaux, who is the president and CEO of Teleios Collaborative Network, is with me. We are excited, but first we got to take an obnoxious selfie. Ready? All right.
Love it.
So I have to tell you, I have to update with every person. So we'll see. I'm kind of afraid that my Fitbit's going to think it's been stolen by the end of the day, but let's see where we are. 8,600 steps.
That's awesome.
Here we go. So all, of course, raising awareness, raising funds. Got to give you an update. Let me see if I have one. I don't have it. Wait a minute. We're going to have an update. So I think when Angie jumped up here, we had raised $20,705. So let's see what Flavel is changing this to. We showed our age earlier. You remember the old telethons? We wanted the old tote board.
I was sitting back there going, I grew up loving the Jerry Lewis telethon. And I'm like, I'm finally in one.
There you go. And we have made it. Let's see what we got. $20,730. So that is awesome. We are trying to see how high we can bring that total through 8 p.m. this evening. So I have to tell you, Chris, you win the prize, though, for the greatest distance traveled.
Glad to, for a great cause.
So we've known each other since 2019. Grateful to call you a friend. You are a mentor of mine that I'm greatly appreciative of. But I said Teleios Collaborative Network. Tell this community what the heck that is.
Well, before I do that, first off, I want to take my hat off to you, Lynn. You know, quite often we'll say as hospice leaders, we do anything for our organization. You have now just upped the stakes. In fact, tonight and next week at our TCM board meeting, I want to share with all of our CEOs, like, Lynn has just upped the ante.
Oh, no. They may throw things at me. I don't know. Well, this is, I had to admit to someone earlier walking with me today, I actually, with his permission, stole this from my brother, who did this in Eastern North Carolina for ECU Health. He was raising money for their cancer center. So he's kind of been my coach on the side as to how this goes. But, you know, you're right. We will do anything. We'll do anything for our team, and we'll definitely do anything for our organization. So.
Well, again, hats off to you, because I think it's a super cool way. And I love whenever I could kill two birds with one stone. So if I could get exercise, talk to someone who I love, talk about things, I mean, my God, it doesn't get any better than that.
That's right. It's the trifecta, I think.
So you asked what Teleios was. And so we're a network of amazing hospices, community-based nonprofit hospices. We have 23 members in 14 different states.
Wow.
We have a lot of depth in the state of North Carolina with amazing programs like Encora. And really, what we do is support amazing people like you and your team. And we believe the work that we do together shows up by the bedside for patients and families. And that's why I get up every day and even get on a treadmill today.
There you go.
It's just knowing that that's why we do what we do.
Yeah. So, you know, when we first kicked off this morning, we were talking about, Flavel and I were talking about the fact that even though we had a name change, right? We're 38 years old this month.
Wow.
The majority of that time, of course, Hospice of Rockingham County, but had a rebranding just so we could be more accurate, if you will, as far as what we do and how we do it. But still, the independent nonprofit organization that's always supported this community. And this network that you just described helps us maintain that independence.
Well said.
It is, golly, I don't remember a lot of dates, but I do remember this one because it was April Fool's Day. So April 1st, 2019, we joined the Teleios Collaborative Network simply because we were smart enough to know in order for us to stick around, in order for us to grow, have all kinds of service lines in the future, we had to have a little help doing that. And as a nonprofit, that's where you came in. And I can tell you, we were number 8 when we joined. So look at the growth that you guys have had.
Absolutely. And I was thinking, Lynn, just driving My wife's got a dream that we're going to find some really cool property into a family compound. I was just looking for a beautiful community. There's so much beautiful in just your community. And, throughout America, local communities, they get gutted, like big box stores. And I'm not dissing big box stores, but quite often it erodes the fabric of the local. And so in many respects, TCN was built to empower organizations like yours. And I see, I love, we were actually playing your testimonial and you said, we're a really good organization before TCN. We feel like now we're a great organization.
Absolutely.
And that makes me smile because I think that's the work that we're doing together. And people, more jobs. It'd be great to go back and look at like how many jobs have we added together.
Exactly.
Because your organization is serving more people in the community, and that makes me smile. And surely your community is winning out, getting better care, more jobs in the area, helps the local economy, helps the healthcare ecosystem. People get the care that they need, and to think that's happening all over the country together.
That's
and then
exciting.
You guys have such beautiful examples like innovation like this, and then we pay that forward to other people and you get that cross-pollination. It's just so cool.
Well, I tell you, when we joined, so if we just think about the growth, and in the grand scheme of things, 6 years is not a tremendous amount of time. And sometimes I'm going to have to be honest, I don't sit with that enough. Not that you want to rest on and go, we're all that in a bag of chips.
Right.
But I know, for me personally, I do need to spend more time to go, whoa, look at what we've accomplished, right, in a short amount of time. When we joined TCN, we had only the hospice service line. Of course, we had Gibson House, but including Gibson House, our average daily census was 45 people a day. Wow. So when we got started this morning, and I was talking about all of the service lines we've added, so obviously still have the 2 hospice, inpatient and out, serious illness care, and now our counseling center. On any given day, we are caring for and supporting between 375 and 400 people across all of that.
That just gave me goosebumps.
It really does.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that's the whole reason for this today, because everybody deserves access.
Absolutely.
To that 5-star care. So, kind of a funny story when you were talking about all these beautiful hospices across the country and everybody getting this care. So I had a board member, I was sharing with them, this has been a while ago, sharing with the board our quality scores, obviously, our best places to work, 5-star rating. And I made the statement, X number in the network have 5 stars, X number in the network made that best places to work list. And he looked, he said, well, I got a question. I said, okay. He said, does TCN recruit the best hospices, or do the best hospices see the value in TCN? And I just looked at him and said,
yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But, and I hesitate to cut because it's not competition with each other. It is relationship building from organization to organization. And I shared this with Tina Gentry, who is my main coach through TCN. I shared this with her the other day. I've been a nurse for 35 years. Started at the bedside here with Hospice of Rockingham County way before this role, which was never on my radar, by the way, but you know how that goes. But I'm a very relational person. And something that our team does very well is to build that trust and rapport with patients and families like that. Because sometimes that's all the time you got.
Yep.
That is a skill.
Yep.
But you all do that. And because you build trust with each organization so quickly, it's Lynn Flanagan's opinion that that's why the organizations can trust each other like that.
Wow. That feels profound.
Well,
and
I just want you to sit with that for a little, because that is truly how I feel, because when I think about the residential beds that we now offer at Gibson House, that came about because Cindy Tuttle, who's the director of clinical operations at Gibson House, and myself, and Andrea Hale, who's the CEO of Valley Hospice, which is Ohio and West Virginia,
yep.
We had a great call. And because of our relationship, she shared best practices. Hey, we've been doing this for a while. more importantly, she even shared, don't do this. And sometimes that's just as important.
That might be more important.
But so now, through that relationship, here we are, still independent, but now we've got another service that we're offering this community, and it's how we're supporting people.
I love that, and it makes me smile on so many different levels, and I'm sitting there reflecting, why is that? And I think it's, maybe you'll correct me or help me. Number one, our team is as passionate about care by your bedside as hopefully your team is. Like, it's why we get up and do what we do, travel all over the country, come walk on a treadmill. Truly, it's our heart, it's our passion. We have incredible years of experience. I think we're pushing like 750 years of experience, but I say that with humility because every day we're learning more. So we don't come in like we have all the answers.
Right.
And our job is to support you and your team. And I think that humility, that learning mode, the passion and focus on the mission, I would hope that's why.
Absolutely.
You're describing what you're describing. I always have believed, as a CEO, I set the tone of my own organization. I know that's my heart.
Right.
Some days I get it right, some days I get it wrong, but certainly that's kind of the compass that I'm trying to peg to.
Yeah.
Always reading, researching, trying to figure out what do we need to do that better.
Yeah.
What are cutting edge technologies, ideas? Like next week, we're gonna have these future council report outs. Great example of just me constantly thinking, how do we add value to our members and being careful that we're not bringing distractions, bringing things that add value and really trying to be discerning about that. Yeah. So those, as I reflect, I'm going to keep reflecting on that too, because I think that's profound.
Yeah. So we've talked earlier, Flavia and I were talking about why these fundraisers are so important. We've never turned anybody away in 38 years. Wow. Someone medically eligible for hospice, never turned anybody away because they don't have insurance, they don't have a way to pay for our services. That is huge. And of course, you know this, growing up in hospice as well, but if you followed our team from home to home, you would never say, oh, well, they got less.
Right.
Oh, whatever, because, we know they don't have insurance. You'd never see a difference. You never see a difference in the support. You never see a difference in the heart of that team that goes in. But these fundraisers are why.
Yeah.
And they're so important for nonprofits. Sometimes I worry that nonprofits we're like little dinosaurs. I don't want us to be.
Yeah. Because of the pressures of what you just said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we've got a ton of competition in this county. Some people still don't realize that. One of the misconceptions is hospice is hospice is hospice.
Yep.
Well, we're all one organization. Couldn't be further from the truth.
Yep.
So our connection with TCN and sharing best practices with other organizations in the network constantly gives us things to strive for. What's one more way we can set ourselves apart? One more way. And then, of course, it's just the communicating that to the community, right?
You're reminding me, Lynn, the lady who started the hospice where I was the longtime CEO, 4 seasons. You loved her. You remind me of her. And one time we had an event. I've never sung in my life in public at that one event, but the night before I was watching with my girls, I think it was The Prince of Egypt. There's a beautiful Disney song, a single thread of tapestry, though its color may brightly shine, will never find its purpose, but in the pattern of the grand design. When I hear you talk about like community, they're donating right here. Yeah. They're not just giving money. Right. They're investing in the mission of your organization, investing in your people, so care stays local. Right. And hopefully people realize if you're choosing Ancora, you're choosing the best. Exactly. Not all hospices are made the same. Right. Just because someone has a slick brochure, slick marketing, overpromise, underdeliver, put pressure on other people that, well, you got to go with this one because of whatever. Ultimately, I think local communities are what they are because the beautiful independent spirit, but it's also that glue, that tapestry that holds a community together. So it's everybody kind of participating, investing in, being a part of. Right. And Ancora is one of those organizations that you just want to be a part of. Yeah. You want to bet on a winner. You want to bet on someone who's going to do right by your family. Yeah. And I think that's what you and your organization are. Yeah. So, I mentioned best places to work. So I got to talk about that for a little bit. You should.
We are, it is the most humbling thing that I can even think about this morning that, recently we were both in Nashville, but Ancora Compassionate Care was named number 3 in the nation, best places to work in healthcare.
That's incredible.
I have to tell on myself. I think I probably have already told you this story, but one of my favorite pictures from that night, Teresa Towns, who's our director of HR, was sitting next to me, and a coworker of ours took our picture across the table, and we are both just, I mean, we had burst out laughing because they got to number 5. And I actually looked at Teresa, I said, we are on this list. I mean, we just didn't get invited for dinner, right? I mean, what in the world? So that is awesome. But talk a little bit about that. Why do we even, what value does that bring to the community?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Something I'm very passionate about. I've always believed that the culture you create in an organization is like fertile soil. Mm-hmm. You create a great culture, you plant great people. And this is becoming much more the exception, not the rule.
Right.
Because now I've got kids that are growing up and going in the workplace. I'm even more passionate because I want to see them in that type of organization. But then you think of the care that we provide, how we walk on this sacred ground with patients and families. So it's even more challenging, more necessary that we create those kind of cultures. And then, like, well, then what's the rubric? How do you know if you're on the journey to that?
Right.
That night afterwards, we started doing some ChatGPTing. There are about 1 million healthcare organizations in this country.
Wow.
And to think you're number 3?
You're number 3. Wow.
Man,
that's incredible.
If I'm listening to this and in this community, that's an organization I want to get care from, because those are people that care, people that are learning and growing. And so when they walk into your home or wherever you're getting care, or whether you're coming to the Gibson house, you know you're getting the cut above.
Yeah.
And what I love about the way you said that, you're never resting on your laurels about that.
No.
You're always learning and growing. Last year they had you on a panel picking your brain, like, Lynn, how do you do that? And then Lynn's picking someone else's brain, the lady from Floyd Locum Tenens. And you were the same number as her this year. I thought that was so cool.
Oh my gosh. I mean, really, that was amazing. I don't know that I've processed it all completely yet, but so proud of that. But, you know, this sounds cliche, I guess, but obviously you have taught me, your whole team has taught me a tremendous amount about leadership. One thing that is special to me as far as our whole senior leadership team, and it's unique, we all started at this organization at a staff level.
Wow.
But I think that gives us a unique perspective to care for both sides of things. Now, where it was all baptism by fire until joining TCN, I'll be real honest with you. You know, I went to graduate school, I got a master's in nursing. They didn't teach a lot of that. It was nursing, right?
I did the research. The average is maybe 5 hours of training on leadership, if you're lucky, if you're part of a typical master's in healthcare type program.
Exactly. So I'm very grateful, but when I think about my role as CEO, we've talked about 375 to 400 patients a day. I get that responsibility, but for me, you know, leadership is not about being in charge, right? It's about taking care of those in your charge. And so that includes my entire team. And I'll probably get tearful. They're very used to it. They see me get tearful all the time. But I really cannot adequately express to you how seriously I take that. And how seriously Teresa Towns takes that. As the director of HR. So always looking at how do we support these people? Because what we do, Chris, is hard.
It's very hard work.
And you can't, it's not like you don't have hard things going on in your own life. So what benefits, what flexibilities, how do we meet the staff where they are and enable them to be the best whatever they can be? So they hear that from me a lot. So I've got what I call my relentless vision, but it's like a two-pronged situation. So I have one for the organization, and that Ancora is going to continue to listen to this community and respond whatever it needs. Kind of leave it out there, whatever service lines come in. But for the team, my relentless vision for them is that you will be the best whatever role you play
Yeah.
that you can possibly be. And that's on me and the rest of the leadership team to make sure you get there.
Yep.
Then it's on them to maintain it, because you know you can't be mediocre and work at Encore.
No.
But the more we do that, I have to view that as that is value that goes right back out into the community. Because if you've got supported and highly engaged employees, they're going to give those people the best care possible.
Agree 100%. And I love what you just said, Lynn, because that's the stuff that keeps me up at night in a good way. Like, how does TCN then keep bringing tools, people, resource, expertise, systems, processes, technology that basically accelerates what you just said? That's literally what we try to do. And every day I'm thinking about how do we keep doing it better? And then when we hear these beautiful mission moments in your meetings and our board meetings, I'm like, okay, we're making good progress.
We are making good progress.
There is no there.
Right,
But
exactly.
we're making good progress.
And sometimes I have a strange way to measure success. One of the ways I've always measured success in Gibson House is when I see a family member coming down the hallway with a bed head and in pajamas, but they know everybody's name, they know where the coffee pot is, and they feel comfortable enough to do that. Might sound really strange.
No, that's pretty cool.
The other way within our team that I measure success just happened. An example of it just happened, I guess it was Thursday. Intake, you know, we're all in teams. Our intake team says, hey, we got this referral at such and such hospital. Pretty significant and challenging situation. Admission nurse goes. Situation's even more challenging than what we realized. Then you had Cindy Tuttle, Ashley Presnell, Lynn Flanagan, the admission nurse, Bonnie Stone, the intake, I think it was Samantha Thacker, Mary Beth Suggs, in this team message. Because that admission nurse put out one question, hey, how can we get so-and-so? And it was a supply we don't have. When if you could have followed that thread, it was like, we're going to get that from here. We're going to get this from here. We've called here. He's going to get home by the Saturday, because that's all he wanted. He just wanted to go home.
Wow.
But when you saw how quickly that whole team jumped in there, it's like, that's the only thing that mattered.
Yep.
Right that second. The rest of the day just got pushed to the back burner because that was what was important.
And that to me just nails. I was in one of the big box stores, we'll leave the name unspoken, the other day. I was just looking at this person and I was sad for them because it was a transaction to them. And I thought, here you are, you're probably tired, you're probably working a lot of hours, and you're just doing a transaction. And what you just described is so much more than that.
Absolutely.
And if I'm a local community member, that's the type of organization I want to bet on.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of, invest in, donate to, and one day choose care for my family.
Yeah.
Because we've always, if we think about cable providers, internet providers,
Right.
usually those are horrible examples of good quality, good service, great value. But an organization that's working on what you just described,
Yeah.
I predicted during COVID or in the back end of COVID, I think we're going into a time where there's not going to be much middle. Either
Right.
going to be high performing organizations continually striving to be better and just then really bad.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've seen that in the hospice world.
Sure.
And it breaks my heart because there are a lot of good people in those organizations, but their organizations is not being led from a good place. And then the people choosing care from those organizations are not realizing I'm just getting a transaction.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart because what you just described is so different than that.
Absolutely. And what breaks my heart is that if somebody has that experience of that transactional, poor quality, and that's their only view of hospice,
Yeah.
that makes it so hard for these mission-minded nonprofits to change that mindset.
Yeah. But
So, here we are.
here we are doing things like this
Yeah.
and getting the word out and them knowing, just calling Cora because they are different.
Yeah. Well, let's switch gears just a little bit as we wrap up our time. So you have two fantastic tools. Talk about education and, oh my gosh. So talk a little bit. You've got two different podcasts.
Yeah.
Tell us all about them.
I'm laughing because I think my mom might be watching. I'm sure she was probably thinking, Chris would have a podcast one day. And so certainly was not part of my skill set, not part of my ambition, but because my job is to continue to learn and grow, and anything I'm spending time on has got to add value for programs like yours. So TCN Talks was the first one, and we're just constantly bringing industry thought leaders, relevant, timely topics that hospice and palliative care leaders and staff and board need to know about, because we're living in some really interesting times. It's probably the greatest time of change in probably certainly my lifetime. I'm a bit of a history buff, and so about every 100 years you get a huge amount of change. We're living in one of those times.
Yeah.
So if you're in that kind of time, you need intelligence, you need scouting reports, you need to know what you're going to encounter on that journey. So really TCN Talks was born out of that.
Yeah.
I really sucked probably that first year.
I don't know that I would say that, but I love your self-awareness.
But I think we've gotten better, and it's so great now to see members like yourself. We saw just another member just this past week is launching a podcast. So we have other members now doing their own podcast focused in their communities. That makes me smile.
Yeah.
And as you know, doing your own, it's not easy.
It's not.
And what I'm realizing now, if I did a podcast on a treadmill, that's even harder.
Well, so I gave him a shout out in the beginning, but we couldn't do any of that if it was not for the Mr. Roy Sawyers and Rockingham Update out there. He is
high five
the
to
man,
him, because I
yeah.
have a huge appreciation when the technology works the way it's supposed to.
Oh my gosh.
But then the second one you alluded to, Lynn, I've always believed that everything rises and falls on leadership. One of my, I'll call him heroes, John Maxwell, says that. And if that's the case, then how do you bring leadership and make it obtainable for your team, your people?
Right.
So I'm always reading, always researching. People always kind of roll their eyes like, Chris, what'd you do on vacation? I'm like, I read 5 books. They go, are you bragging? I'm like, no, that's like my passion.
Right.
But then I used to tell people, like, well, Chris, you're always reading. Where do I start? And I give them 5 books, and I can just see the look on their face, and they're not going to read those books. So finally, I wrote a book. I'm like, just start here. And there's a lot of pictures and a lot of questions. So it's like a workbook. And I was actually walking with my wife, actually. I'm now realizing she does the talking when we walk, and I don't. I was walking with my wife, and she asked me some great questions. And I thought, man, what if we did a podcast on the anatomy of leadership and then invited thought leaders on leadership? That would be a great compliment. So now we do a podcast a week, TCN Talks, Anatomy of Leadership, and all of that is truly in service of your team, all the other amazing hospices. But the great thing is we put this out to the whole world.
Right.
And so we now have international listeners, which I kind of shake my head at. That's kind of cool.
That is crazy. That is very cool.
And because leadership will show up by the bedside for patients and families, I believe. But I'm also hoping it trickles out to other businesses, movements, industries as well.
Well, and I tell you, back to the whole network and what we can offer all of our teammates. So the leadership immersion was last week that you guys offer. I'm going to call him out because Brandon Craddock was on there. He's a fantastic nurse.
You would be
Gibson
so
House.
proud of him. He did so good last week.
Well, I'm sure he did. He is awesome. And I'm so grateful that he was able to have that opportunity. But I did have to give him a little guff because you have the simulation at the end, right? And I think he had sent Cindy Total a text and said, let's see how I do running this hospice. So I went straight to him Monday morning. It's like, do I still have a job? And he was like, trust me, you still have a job. But he talked about how great it was, the exposure to ideas, to concepts that he had not. Again, we go to nursing school. Yep. He is awesome at the bedside. But how wonderful is this now to add this on for him? So I'm just grateful because then that's another way that TCN is helping my relentless vision for my team, for them to be the best they can be. So
thanks for acknowledging that. It makes me smile because that whole week we call leadership immersion. We do it twice a year. That's an 8-year product. We kept listening, we kept tweaking. I can remember the first time we were in a room that wasn't much different than this, actually at Montreat College. It was like some kind of activity room. And I think that first time to how it's evolved now, our team, how they show up, all the planning, the details. Like most people go to a virtual course and whatever, man. We have a lady who's the CEO of a hospital like Teleios group.
Yeah, oh, cool.
She went through last week.
Oh, neat.
And she did this great post on LinkedIn last night, and she's got a lot of years of healthcare experience. And she said, I've now proved you can teach an old dog new tricks, but just marveled at probably one of the best virtual courses she's ever been through before.
wow.
And we call it immersion for a reason, is
Yeah.
we really do, just like you're talking about the simulation on Friday, people run their own hospice
Yeah.
programs. Why would we do that? Because then when you go to work Monday,
That's right.
when it really counts, you've got a lot more confidence. And one of my leadership mentors said, you know, if you're playing a sport, you practice throughout the week. What's the corollary in the business world? That makes you kind of cringe.
Yeah.
They put a lot of practice hours into a game that, yeah, is building character, building leadership skills, but in the overall scheme of things, we're talking about stuff that's very meaningful on the hospice side. So to have people run a simulation, so then when they get back on Monday, they're standing taller. They're like, hey,
Well,
I've got
and
some
you do,
skills.
you've got a better understanding as to why is leadership doing what they're doing? Oh, you know, now,
Yeah.
so it kind of starts falling into place. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for shouting that out, because that makes me smile.
Absolutely.
That week takes a lot. Usually it takes me 2 weeks to recover afterwards.
I can only imagine. Tomorrow, speaking of recovery, I'm going to sit down. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm thinking like you're going to be in your sleep tonight. You're going to still be walking.
Well, I have to tell you, so I guess we had, first thing out of the gate, her name's Catherine Church. First of all, can I just say that I did not match Catherine's energy. I knew I wasn't going to. She is an awesome human being, but yeah, she had the incline going and the whole, it's like, okay. But she left, she's driving to Kentucky to go see the Ark. And then before she leaves, she says, I am going to be in Kentucky, checked into the hotel having dinner. You're still going to be here at RCC. But yes, I am. But that's okay. But so there's my heart for this organization.
Well, my hat's off to you, because I've like lowered the speed 3 times over the
Well, I'm doing a snail's pace, which is kind of, but it's going to be good. But again, you do anything, right?
What's that?
You do anything for this organization.
Yeah, my hat's off to you. I mean, I
So.
just think I love this idea. I'm thinking, damn, I wish I signed up for like 3 shifts now.
Right. So, well, I know you have miles to travel and a busy day. So I just appreciate your time. This has been awesome. It's been fun.
It's been fun, Lynn. Yeah, truly, I'm reluctant to give up my treadmill, but no, you got some great guests, and hope's not a strategy. I know that number is going to keep
on
climbing,
going.
because there's a lot of purpose behind those numbers. So
Agreed.
thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right.
See you later.